Everyone suddenly started talking about Hantavirus. After a series of mysterious deaths during the expedition of the ship MV Hondius, it was discovered that the people who died had allegedly lost their lives due to Hantavirus. At first, it was believed that infected rodents had spread the virus to humans, but the situation turned out to be a bit more complicated. The issue started here. Hantavirus was usually known to spread from rodents to humans. However, this was potentially a new strain that might have been capable of spreading from person to person. The fatality rate seemed so high that everyone on board was placed under quarantine. Even worse was the ship's helpless situation in the middle of the ocean. The vessel wanted to dock at one of the Cape Verde Islands in the Atlantic Ocean, but to prevent the possible spread of the disease, authorities refused to let the ship come ashore. Now, I'm going to tell you some very interesting details. But first, we need to ask one question. What exactly happened? And is the situation really serious? Everything started as a simple expedition. Explorers boarded the ship called Hondius for a long voyage that would eventually take them toward Cape Verde, the ship in the port of Ushuaia, Argentina on April 1st. Their first stop was South Georgia Island. This is Jake, a traveler and blogger who happened to be one of the passengers on board. In fact, the person you saw at the beginning saying he was in a difficult situation was him. While researching this case, I found that Jake had documented the journey day by day on his website. Interestingly, on April 7th, during the first week of the trip, he wrote, "A big part of this preparation is biosecurity. Before stepping ashore, everything has to be carefully cleaned and inspected to make sure we don't bring anything harmful onto the island." What he meant was simple. They didn't want to accidentally introduce bacteria or contaminants that could damage the island's ecosystem. Of course, he wasn't talking about any pandemic virus at the time, but strangely enough, it almost felt like Jake had a bad feeling from the beginning. While Jake was writing these posts, a 70-year-old passenger on board had no idea he was carrying a deadly virus. About 4 days later, on April 11th, the elderly man died. Yet Jake, who shared nearly everything, never mentioned such an important event. In fact, he seemed happy, acting as if nothing had happened. The next morning, Captain John D. Brogowski made an announcement to everyone on board. He stated that the death was not unusual, that it appeared to be from natural causes, and that the ship was perfectly safe. But he was wrong. The situation was much more serious. Maybe they knew something. Maybe they understood there was a risk. Maybe they were protecting company interests. Or maybe they genuinely had no idea. But one thing was certain. No one on board yet knew that this involved a potentially deadly virus. Jake's later posts support this too. The ship continued its route and arrived at Tristan da Cunha on April 14th, the most remote inhabited place on Earth. People went ashore. They explored. They ate. They enjoyed themselves, completely unaware. The following day, April 16th, the journey continued. The unfortunate part? 6 new passengers boarded the ship at Tristan da Cunha. 6 people who had absolutely no idea what was happening. Meanwhile, another female passenger had begun feeling increasingly sick. On April 24th, the ship arrived at St. Helena. At that point, she was still only showing mild symptoms. After leaving the ship, she boarded a flight to Johannesburg. But during the flight, her condition rapidly worsened and she was rushed to a hospital. On April 26th, she also died. While the ship continued its voyage, another passenger visited the onboard doctor with fever and shortness of breath. Soon after, on May 2nd, a 3rd passenger died. Following these events, the World Health Organization was informed, and the virus was identified as Andes virus, considered the most dangerous subtype of Hantavirus, because Andes is believed to be the only Hantavirus strain capable of spreading between humans. And this is where the real story begins. While many passengers were still on board, and no one yet knew where or how the virus had originated, how did they become so certain it was spreading person to person? Maybe someone caught it from rodents on board. Maybe it came from rodent droppings. Maybe contaminated food. Or maybe something entirely different. What makes this even more interesting is that there isn't absolute proof that Hantavirus spreads between humans. Only possibilities. A review by researchers examining 22 different studies stated that evidence supporting person-to-person transmission of Andes virus remained insufficient. Of course, human transmission may be possible, but presenting it to the public as a confirmed fact before fully understanding the situation, while separate reports of cases suddenly appeared in different countries felt unusual. So the question remains, could this actually become a pandemic?
This is not the next COVID, but it is a serious infectious disease. You know, it's an infectious disease that if people get infected, and infections are uncommon, they can die. And so, again, people hearing this that are on the ship are very rightly so scared. And the general public might be scared as well. So early information, accurate information is critical, knowing what your actual exposure might be, and most people will never be exposed to this.
For the general public, the risk is considered low. This isn't something like COVID or seasonal flu. It behaves very differently. Some infected people recover on their own, and there's currently no specific treatment or cure. People usually become infected by accidentally inhaling virus particles found in dried rodent urine or droppings. In severe cases, blood vessels become more permeable, fluid builds up in the lungs, breathing becomes difficult, heart rate slows down, and ultimately, it can become fatal. Personally, I think some of the fear may be exaggerated, because this virus isn't new. Back in 2018, during a birthday party in Epuen, Argentina, 34 people were infected and 11 died. At the time, nobody treated it as the beginning of a pandemic, and nothing happened afterward. The virus itself dates back to the 1950s. During the Korean War, American soldiers became seriously ill from a related strain. Later, in 1978, infected rodents near the Hantavirus River led scientists to identify the virus and name it after that river. Hopefully this isn't another case of fear being amplified for reasons beyond public health.
Are you familiar with the Hantavirus, Agent Mulder?
Yeah, it was a deadly virus spread by field mice in the southwestern United States several years ago.
According to the newspaper, FEMA was called out to manage an outbreak of the Hantavirus. Are you familiar with what the Federal Emergency Management Agency's real power is? FEMA allows the White House to suspend constitutional government upon declaration of a national emergency. Think about that. What is an agency with such broad sweeping power doing managing a small viral outbreak in suburban Texas?
You're saying it wasn't such a small outbreak?
No. I'm saying it wasn't the Hantavirus.
Well, what was it?